Right, tonight we have the pleasure of hosting our guest speaker, Mr. Philip Hart. Now, as you know, I always give a bit of history about our speakers, but I'm afraid Philip's a bit of an enigma to me tonight, so try as I couldn't find anything much about him other than the fact he's written a very interesting book about his life story relating to UFOs, and it's entitled Everything Began in Essex. And he may just have a copy or two with him, I don't know, to sell on to you later. I also know he gave a very interesting talk down in Cornwall at the UFO conference, which wasn't long ago, for those who are interested, and it was very well received. Now, Philip's talk tonight is entitled Grays, Where It All Began. Grays, Where It All Began. And it covers a lifetime of interaction with the UFO phenomenon, from his birth in the London Docklands up to the present day. Now, he's witnessed various craft, lights, orbs and beings through the years, all of which have fascinated him, although at times his experiences have varied from interesting to terrifying. Now, as he's now retired, and because he's no longer in a job where talking about the subject was taboo, and we all know what that's like, he's decided that it's time to tell his story, and he hopes that in time it may help others to come forward as well and tell their encounters and to continue research into the fascinating phenomenon. So I'm sure Philip himself will be able to fill you in on his background, and that will be followed by what sounds like a really fascinating talk. So please put your hands together for a warm, super and welcome for Mr. Philip Hart. Thank you.
Okay, you all hear me out there? Yeah, this presentation is all the various odd things that I have seen from near birth up until the present day. There's encounters, as I have had many of these encounters witnessed by others as well as myself. Okay. Many of the encounters were witnessed by others as well as myself, and if any of you have witnessed similar, I'd like to hear from you in the future. All the events here happened on the United Kingdom, and one happened in the USA. They range from the odd to the downright scary, as has been said. Now, the areas on this map show where it all happened at various times. There's Thurrock in Essex, Swansea, Hampshire, Andover, Hampshire, Hale Sands in Cornwall, Short Lanes End in Cornwall, Laughlin, USA, Nevada, and Torbay in Devon, and the last one was Meltor on Dartmoor. Okay, we have the Saucer of Tilbury Docks. This particular one was told to me in later life from my mother in a letter which I received many years later, of which you will hear the story. The Barrel of Salisbury Road, Sockley, the Light from Clodgy Points and Ives, Ashley Road, Triangle, Short Lanes End, Cornwall, the Green Tadpole of Andover, the Lights of Laughlin, a Visitor to Torbay, which scared the hell out of us, the Orb of Torbay, and the Meltor sightings. These are a list of the various ones and the dates that go with them for the sightings spread across 1950 to 2020. 1950 to 2020 they range. Okay, this is the area up near London, on the London east side, Tilbury Docks. That is the current picture as it is now. The yellow arrow points to where I lived at the time, and the saucer was spotted running along the Thames over on the left hand side there. And that's a picture of the area as it was in 1950. The red arrow points to where I was living, and in front of that there was very little housing, if any, at the time. Most of what's there now was built later in the 50s. The weather was sunny, light southwest wind, as a saucer-shaped object slowly but purposely flew along from east to west, across the Thames, heading across London to the west. It was hoping not to be seen, but was, in actual fact, spotted. It had been seen by my mother, May, who was looking south out of the bedroom window in St Chad's Road, Grays, Essex. Our home, as shown in this picture, was approximately 900 metres to the north of the river. Other housing to the south was still being built, and many of it bore the scars of war, with repair work still going on in the area. I knew nothing of this at the time, as I was only 12 hours old, and having been born in that room just after a full moon on the 28th of August at 10 p.m. This encounter was relayed to me much later by my mother, May. There she is, at 15. This is the only picture I have of her at that time. The following she put in a letter to me many years later, and she stated that the craft was about 30 foot across, moving east to west over the old Thurrock landing area at a height of some 100 feet, and continued west direction and made no discernible noise. She noted that its flight was extremely quiet. She said she was more afraid of it being a bomb of some kind rather than anything else, as at that time, only 5 years after the war, they were still really worried about things flying that shouldn't be. May had returned home to Grays, Essex, after working in the Women's Land Army on the Holcombe estate in Norfolk. So I would be born at the family home. I was told that a gamekeeper on that estate is my father, but I do not have a name despite inquiries with the estate archives. But that is a story for another time. I finally found her in the 1980s living in Wales. She never wanted to meet, but corresponded by letter, which included the story to me of this in the letter in 1991, when she learned that I had an interest in the subject. Other reports around that area have also been found of craft in the London area in the early 50s. This slide shows the projected path of the flight if it carried on, and it would have crossed the home counties and actually crossed Bristol across the south of Wales here. So unknown to me, my first UFO sighting had happened, although not aware of it at the time. 4 days after this, my mother came to feed me, and I found I had been removed and adopted. Life moves on. Okay, next sighting was the barrel of Salisbury Road in Sopley, Hampshire. At approximately 5:15 on Sunday the 20th of September 1964. It was a dry and sunny day. I had been on a day trip with my new adopted parents, and consisted of Ken and Margaret with my new parents. And that was my other two brothers I was adopted with. I'm the good-looking one on the right of that picture. We were now living in Barton-on-Sea in Hampshire coast, and we're visiting our grandparents. There they are, up in Bolton-on-the-Hill, Gloucester. They lived in an old country cottage with a very well-stocked garden, and it is now actually a new holiday resort, holiday cottage you can rent, and not the run-down cottage it once was when they lived there. On our way home, we had arrived at Ringwood, and were proceeding south along the Sopley Road, the A3347, Ringwood Road. That shows you the approximate site inland of the coast there at Bournemouth, up near Sopley Airfield it was. The sun was slowly setting in the west. On passing an area north of Sopley, we noticed people on the side of the road and on the bank. We noticed that cars had pulled into the field on the side of the road, and people were on the banks looking over the fields to our left. At that time, hedges had not grown up with the trees that are now present, so the view was a lot more open. Dad pulled over and we all got out. By now quite a lot of cars had pulled over to see what was going on. These are the fields that a large metal-looking object shaped a bit like a barrel was going along over the fields with arms folded down against itself. It was flying over the fields approximately 50 metres away, close to the ground and hopping without slowing over fences and hedgerows. No noise was heard from it as it made its way out of sight at a slow speed. There were some 30 people still watching over the hedges, and we were somewhat bewildered at what we had seen. Our parents said it was time to go and it was none of our business, as parents very often did back then. This is a drawing I made at the time on arriving home. My brothers and I were very concerned about what we had seen. So this was drawn and put in an exercise book. This drawing was found on clearing out the house on my parents' death, and the notes above were put together with the help of my brothers Doug and Brian. The arms of the craft were shaped like the jaws of a bearing puller and hung down the side. The whole thing was a dull black and grey colour with no markings except what looked like large rivets in rows around the base as shown there. They were approximately 2 inches in diameter. That's the flight path it took going across the fields as it headed north, and where the car is the road where we were. We watched it for several minutes as it crossed to our left and holding approximately 1 metre above the ground and all that it passed over. This picture was taken at the same time of day when recently visiting the site and shows the setting sun would have been behind me and shining directly on the object that we viewed, thus giving a very clear view. The object never slowed when changing height to pass over hedges and fences, which was extremely strange. But in the end, Father said it was none of our business and time to go home. It was still very much in our minds when we arrived home, so I made that sketch that appears previously. The encounter was to start an interest for the unusual and the interesting that still continues to this day. Being told of sightings is not the same as seeing one for the first time in person, and you don't forget it. Okay, the light from Cloggy Point, St Ives, Cornwall. 8 p.m. on Saturday the 17th of September 1977, this one. That's an overall picture of the bay, approximately from the top of the cliffs where I was fishing on the beach below there, with St Ives over to the right-hand side, left-hand side, and Godrevy Light and the cliffs to the left. The weather was dry with a light southwest wind, and the sea had been calm for some days, as such as the north coast ever is in Cornwall. A lovely evening for beach angling at this time, and I was living and working in the area and went down to Gwithian Beach to do a couple of hours fishing. The sea was quiet with a light swell, and it was getting dark. The light reflection could be seen on the water from St Ives across the bay, and the Godrevy Light there to my left. Right, beg your pardon, and in front across the bay was Cloggy Point, which was behind St Ives in the distance. That's a close-up of St Ives with the point in the background there on the right-hand side, which appeared to be where the light came from. Looking out across the bay towards St Ives, a bright light appeared over the northern edge of St Ives, from the direction of Cloggy Point, which was to the west of St Ives. The plan shows the path that the light took. It's a very bright light, extremely and moving very fast. The light came from the northern edge of St Ives and raced across the bay. I had a full view over the whole bay from where I was fishing. That's an idea of what it looked like. Moving over the water at only about 10 metres or so altitude, it passed in front of the Godrevy Lighthouse. And between myself and the lighthouse, lighting up the entire lighthouse. It outshone the actual light on the lighthouse. I was by then getting concerned that this light was moving so fast and shining so bright, and it lit up the sea and neighbouring cliffs as it passed into the night, like a very strong modern searchlight, but in all directions. As it approached the cliffs of Godrevy Barrow down there at Hale, it turned 90 degrees vertical and then 90 degrees horizontal. It was a very direct and precise change of direction, with no slowing and without any noise whatsoever. That was a daylight shot from the same place, just to show it in daylight. As it passed over the water, it was silent and had no effect on the surface of the water. The sea was calm, with little noise from the waves. The object passed over the bay within my sight for a distance of 8 kilometres in a time of approximately 6 seconds. That's 80 kilometres a minute, or 4,880 kilometres an hour. And that's some flying for 1977. This map shows the possible course that it may have taken if continuing on its journey. I note that in the time that I lived there, I never returned to that spot again, although not threatened. You had a sort of a sense of you shouldn't be there. The encounter had a profound effect on me that day, and it's taken me 42 years to go back to that beach, which is where I returned to do these photos in 2019. Some of you may have noticed on YouTube there is a great piece of camera work from a security camera of a light passing across the bay there and going vertically straight up without stopping. This appeared in my first book in 2020. Then this film happened in 2021. So in effect, mine supports his and his supports mine, although many years between us. Okay, next one. Ashley Road Triangle, Short Lanes End, Truro. 7 p.m, Saturday the 14th of October, 1978. Following ahead the hard day's graft at Zela Nurseries, I was on my way back from Truro to Zela. It was dark with only the starlight and the light pollution in the sky behind me from Truro, lighting up the sky. Go back there, that's it. I've been to the Chippy in Pider Street and was on my way home with the food to Zela. That's actually the modern day version of it that's there now, and very nice it is too. I reached Short Lanes End, heading north towards Zela, and turning right into Short Lanes End off the B3284, took the narrow road that headed up to Zela as a shortcut. There was no bypass then, and there's about to be a bypass of the bypass, which is progress. That's the road. I was approximately 3/4 of a mile along this lane when I felt a sensation like a pressure wave pushing on me from above. Not intense, but enough for you to sort of look out the window and think, what's going on? I stopped in the gateway. That's actually the gateway. The gate seems to have disappeared since. Slowly opened the driver's window and looked up, worried about what I might see. I could see a dark shape above the car, hiding the stars, with a sharp straight line noticeably slightly to the right of the car window as I looked out and up. There was a small amount of light from the street lights in Truro reflecting in the sky, which just gave enough light to see by. Despite the supper getting cold, I got out of the car. The object covered the sky at about 45-degree angle front and back of the car. Then, moving slowly through the air with no great speed and with no sound, was a craft of 3 distinct sides. It resembled a stretched triangle. It made no noise, had no lights or discernible contours, and was moving through the air. It was pitch black over the entire body of the craft. I looked over, very menacing, just hanging there in the sky above me, although slightly moving towards the north. I've heard that ships like this have been seen with navigation lights, but there was definitely no sign of any lights on this one. And that's how it appeared above me, sitting in the sky. Along this road, I stopped a picture that shows local power lines. That's the low ones there, just up, literally up the road from where it was spotted. And in that main picture, in the background, there are large pylons which can be seen in the background. That meant the craft had to be 150 feet high to have cleared all these, to make sure it didn't hit the power. This made the object between 2 and 250 foot long at the height, and larger if it was higher still. Somewhat shaken by what I'd witnessed, I got back into the car. It was time to go and head for home. With one eye on the road and one out on the sky, I continued up the lane to Zila. And that's the direction the craft was going, as well as I was. It continued on its course northwest as I turned down a lane and drove back to Zila, where you see the left-hand turn there. There was no sign of it, and it appeared it had gone straight on. I arrived at the nursery and asking around the farm opposite us, as well as customers at the nursery at the time. Nobody had seen anything else. I checked the press at the end of the week, but there was no mention of any sightings that week in that area. Not that there was much chance of them ever mentioning it anyway. That would have been the route if it had continued through. It shows very little land it crossed. The tip of Cornwall, the very outside edge of Wales, and a very isolated area of Scotland there. It depicts a good course to fly, as if it wanted to avoid anybody over us, although it must have come up across Europe. Okay, we move on now. We're now living in Andover, where the green tadpole was seen on Sunday the 29th of May 1994 at 10:30. This account was witnessed by my wife Kay, with me catching the last bit of this sighting after being called out of the house to take a look. The following is Kay's statement based on her notes in the diary of that time. The sky was a mix of heavy cloud and clear blue. I had just arrived home at 10:30 on Sunday from church. Driving into our drive, noticed a flash in the clouds to my left that attracted my attention. Suddenly a large white crack and split opened in the clouds. By now, I had got out of the car. The split opens and a fluorescent green, tadpole-shaped object drops from the cloud at speed and heads for Andover. First thought was it was a meteorite coming to Earth, especially with the colour. Rather than crash, it turned a gentle, quiet turn as it approached towards the ground, and promptly turned straight up and went straight back up into the clouds again. The whole episode lasted about 10 seconds. The object was about the size of a small light aircraft. The church sermon that day has been on the importance of looking to the skies and not downwards, which was rather appropriate for that day. That's Kay's drawing of what it looked like. It had a metallic centre in the front piece of it, like the head of the whatever, like a metal ball. That was the area going across Andover where it was heading, which was literally to the centre of the town. The Andover Advertiser actually received some pictures, a picture on that, from somebody else who took a photograph and did a small article on it at the time on that week. Okay, interesting one this. Lights of Laughlin, 1 p.m, that should be 1 a.m, Monday, 18th of Feb, 2002. Flying out of Heathrow International to Vegas, we were attending the 2002 UFO convention at Laughlin in Nevada, 80 miles southeast of Las Vegas, and having a great time with everyone at the River Palms Hotel. which has now changed its name, but it was a very good hotel then. We always made a long vacation, went over there to make it worth the effort. And that's the whereabouts in the US where you were. Now this is an actual picture of the bedroom that we had there. The picture shows the actual room we used and was on the side of the hotel facing the river. Turning into bed after a hectic day, we were both awakened around 1 AM by white, yellow lights emitting from around the bed headboard, furniture wall and corners of the room. Right. This is just an idea as I'm no artist. Yeah. There was a slight noise like whispering in the distance. I heard these, but Kay did not. Something making contact? The area was part of the Indian First Nations land, or was it something else? The light started as a bright dot of white and yellow, which then sprouted to a V shape about 4 to 6 inches long before going out. We watched these for several minutes, mesmerised by the flickering on and off of the lights. Although very much awake, while this was going on, neither of us felt scared, which seemed rather odd. We fell asleep before the light show ended. Neither of us have any memory of seeing the lights finish. We asked around, but nobody else had seen the idea in any of their rooms. We wondered if it was stress caused by the San Andreas fault, which isn't that far to the west. But the answer was negative, and it did not reappear again. Was it a visitor with the lights and the whispers we saw? Maybe we were not all that was in that room. I can still hear those whispers in my head today, although they were not heard by Kay. Food or thought, a warning or an awakening? Time will tell. This is Kay's drawing now on the board, done at the time. Written on the drawing, it states the following. White lights start as dot, then sprout to a V, randomly flashing on and off. V's about 4 inches before going out. We watched them for several minutes before falling asleep. Have any of you stayed in hotels where you've witnessed anything like this? We have not had a repeat of this in any other hotels in our travels. Still remains a strange one, that one. Okay, visitor to Torbay. Our home was in Brixham. We were living down there in the Torbay area. The beginning of this encounter started several days earlier than the main event. There we are, that's where we were living at the time. A long-necked alien grey face with striped neck and a plain light grey backing appeared on our computer screen as a screensaver. We both thought that the other was responsible, but neither of us had placed it there, nor did we have anything similar on our computers to have copied. Thinking it a joke from one of our friends, or we'd inadvertently downloaded it, we deleted it and got on with our lives, giving it no more thought. Pity. Should have taken this as a warning of trouble. The problem is, when you finally realise it is already too late. Sunday the 12th of May, 5 days later. Went to bed like any other night. The day had been an average day, good Sunday, nice Lundy roast. Got up in the early hours around 2 AM, go to the bathroom. Returning down the landing, our bedroom on the left and the empty second bedroom directly in front of me with the door open. Before reaching our door, on the right, a figure of a grey alien appeared through the wall and into the second bedroom, wearing what looked like a brown hood on the back of its head. It was sort of a cross here and disappearing into the wall behind. Only visible from its lower chest upwards, through the wall approximately 7 feet high to the top of its head, with the lower part of its body in the wall and hidden from view. The other side of the wall was our bedroom, and upon seeing this, for no explicable reason I can think of, I bowed slightly acknowledging it and returned to bed. On returning to bed, I gave it no more thought and went to sleep as though nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Still don't know why. As it seemed quite all right to have a grey alien looking at me in the spare room. After all, the spare room is for guests. although normally they're invited. I slept soundly and ready to wake at 7 a.m. for work on the Monday morning. When I awoke, my head was not calm, by any stretch of the imagination. What was that I had seen in the spare room? And after some discussions between us, we decided that we needed a little help and guidance on this. We needed to talk to someone who we knew. So before work, we sent an email to a friend of ours who we knew from previous UFO conferences, Daryl Sims, the alien hunter based in Texas, USA. Told him what had happened, described what we had seen, and the reply was, "Sounds interesting. Come and see me." Very early on the morning of the 28th of May, we drove to Torbay, Devon, up to Heathrow International and flew again to the US. That's us coming into LA. On our second crossing that year, a comfortable flight was had with British Airways and we arrived late in the afternoon. We took a hire car and drove to Santa Monica from our hotel for the duration of our stay in the area, a suburb of LA some 8 miles west from the airport. We're on the coast there. This map shows the position of Santa Monica. We stayed at the Hotel Carmel on 2nd Street in Santa Monica, a pleasant and comfortable place near the famous pier and the western end of Route 66. That shows the position of Thousand Oaks Township out to the west. On the 2nd of June, we travelled out to Thousand Oaks suburb in LA, some 28 miles west of the hotel to the north of Santa Monica Mountains. We arrived at a local hall in Moore Park, northern side of Thousand Oaks, for a small conference that Daryl was holding. There he is at his desk, doing his bit. After the conference, we went back to a very pleasant very pleasant local property, with tea with friends of Daryl's and other invited guests. That's actually us in the garden there, and we were with him. During the afternoon, I got to talk to Daryl on my own. Following a chat with him and drawing a sketch of what I had seen, he said it was sounded like a watcher who was not in our house to harm us, but just to observe. And that was somewhat disturbing in itself. I drew what I had saw and gave it to Daryl. That particular sketch remains on file at the Sabre Enterprises, Daryl's company. I thought this encounter a follow-up from the previous chapter. Was it follow-on or not, or separate? Sitting down with Daryl, much discussion took place, most of which I will not go into here, except to say that the conversation discussed whether hypnosis would be useful in determining whether I'd been abducted. As I was not having flashbacks and the memories of any abduction, it was decided to leave things alone and undisturbed. Daryl offered hypnosis for the future, and the door has been left open should we need to return. No further encounters with these entities has happened since, or that either of us are aware of. We have seen Daryl on several occasions since then, but with no further things happening. Okay, that's the scary one gone. Torbay self-aware orb. This is just a strange one, really. This map shows where we are, again down in South Devon. Weather was fine with broken cloud. A light wind from the southwest. That's an orientation of where we lived, and the mark on there, the little star, shows our actual garden at Linhay. I was sat in the garden situated on a hill to the west of Brixham, Devon, and I had just finished putting up a new shed. There it is on the left-hand side there. I was just staring at the sky when I saw a circular object go between the clouds overhead and moving in a southwesterly direction over the sea. There it is. That's an actual photograph. Thought it was a balloon at first, but soon realised that not only was it travelling against the wind, but also moving around the clouds as if avoiding them. Maybe it needed to see the ground from where it was. It was semi-transparent, as you could make out the blurred images of the cloud edges as it passed over them. The outer edge was a heavier white in colour. That's more of a pullback on the screen to see it. And in actual fact, I don't know whether you can see it on here, there is a very small one right on the bottom of the picture, which until I put this up on the wall at Cornwall, I hadn't realised was there. Continuing its southwesterly journey against the wind, it eventually went out of sight off towards Hope Cove to the southwest, when the wind was blowing from the southwest. That is a strange one, because I'm not quite sure how it can manage that, but it's something different. Okay, Meltor, Dartmoor, 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 21st of July, 2020. This site map shows the position of Meltor. Just in from there we are. This picture shows the site in daylight and was taken on a later date for reference. On the 21st of July, it was a lovely clear evening and we had driven up to the Meltor car park on the B3357 to photograph the near-Wise comet. On arrival at the site, shades of night were beginning to set in by the time we'd arrived. We parked up, faced northwest, ready for a picture of the near-Wise comet. This was a cloud line crossing from the north, which was thin and letting the last light shine through it. The air was still and pretty quiet, and this was taken at 9:58. At 10 p.m, Kay was the first to notice a round shape lift out of the lower cloud and rise into the next cloud layer, which was very noticeable, with the setting sun and dying light reflecting from the left-hand side but behind the cloud. It stayed in the cloud line and moved off to the east. I watched it taking several pictures in the dying light of day until it was no longer visible. That's a closer up view of it as the best my camera could do. It was like a three-lumped thing, had a top on it and two sort of skirty bits on the bottom of it. This was taken at 10:01. And by then the light was beginning to fade beyond what my camera was capable of doing, I'm afraid. There was no sound in the sky all the time, it was visible, and as the light faded and made photography impossible, we left the site. Right, we'll have a little break then, if anybody wants to. I believe we're going to have questions as well. We will continue after a little break. Okay, it is now 2022 and I've had no further encounters since the last one, that I'm aware of anyway. And that's probably a very large that I'm not aware of. No, wrong way, thank you. But wait. I've had a thought while putting all this together. Lines of happening. Suppose we only see the hidden if we are on our line of happening. If you do not live or visit areas that are close by on your particular line, that's why people never see anything. And I know there are some people who spend all the time looking up in the skies, and I have members of my own family who have seen nothing, as much as they would love to, and others have seen things without even giving it a thought, and they have just appeared. We might share certain sites and lost sightings where we cross one another's line, but everyone's line could be different. This is why some people never have seen anything. All our encounters in the UK line up very close to the happening line. It extends from where I was born in Grays, Essex, through Swansea, Hampshire, Torbay, Meltor, Dartmoor, Short Lanes Inn and Gwithian, into Cornwall there. And they're all within about 3 to 4 miles of that line, all on it nicely. If we take that line continuing on across the Atlantic, it actually passes through Laughlin in Nevada, where we had the flashes above the bed in the hotel. And it actually, when I drew it carefully, it passed within 300 metres of that hotel. And it also went through Thousand Oaks as well, where we met Daryl at the meeting there. It does beg the question of whether you need, if anyone has had one sighting, that's one bit on your line. And if you get 2 sightings, maybe that gives you your line. I make no claims to this, it is an idea, but mine certainly seem to line up in a straight line. We intend to continue this line, that's showing it where it goes down through the Americans. Now we intend to continue this line east and west when travelling sensibly returns on planes. Although I don't think we're going to be going too far to the right on that map for the time being. So, where does your line lay? If you've got sightings, plot them. Have a look. Has anything you have seen answered any questions for you about your searches? Or has it just asked another question? Or several? Today I have told you my story, and maybe in time you'd like to tell yours. So that's my talk actually done, and thank you all for listening. I think we're going to open up now for questions from everyone, and I'm happy to take anything that's going. My book is available here for sale if anybody would like a copy, or they can order it themselves from Amazon. And that's where I put it together in my garden office, and the cat helps as well. Thank you all very much for listening.
What you're saying about the straight lines, so that you sight ends plot
Yeah.
along the line. Are you familiar with Mike Cleland?
No, I don't know.
He's based in the northwest of America. And he gave a talk in Leeds in the Exopolitics a few years ago, and he's come to the same conclusion. A lot of his sightings are on straight lines in the northwest of America.
Oh, right, okay.
Mike Cleland.
Right, I must look into that. Excellent.
I found, what was interesting, I found that one of your sightings was the alien in the house.
Yeah.
Now, 3 of us, when we've gone out investigating things, the amount of people we've had who've been shut off, if you like, haven't they? And a normal reaction when you see something like that is, oh my God, not oh, I'm going back to bed.
Yeah, you scream, shout,
Yeah.
chuck them out.
So what do you think? Do you think you've been shut off or affected in some way, right?
I think I must have been. I mean, your normal reaction, as you say, would be to shout and scream. But it was as though it was just calm and it was quite acceptable for the alien to be there. And I just did a light bow, went back into the bedroom, I went to sleep and slept soundly till the next morning.
And then the following day?
And then the following day went, oh, bloody hell, and
That's when it came
woke up in a panic. Yeah.
That's when it came out.
Yeah.
To such an extent that you popped on the plane.
Well, yeah, we spent the money, we went back to, saw Daryl, went back to America to see him. But, is that a question up there?
Yeah, can we have quiet in the room, please? Because we can't hear the questions. Thank you.
Anybody else? Must be somewhere. Yeah.
Can I ask you, do you see many owls? And have you got any owl photos?
Don't have owl photos. We do see owls where we are. We've had an owl in the garden, and we've seen a lot of deer. We actually used to go out looking for deer in America.
Have you heard any owls where there shouldn't be owls?
Nothing that comes to memory. I know that they can be used as a memory blocker.
Yeah,
Yeah, screen sleep. Yeah.
We when we go out seeing witnesses and stuff, you would be amazed at how many of them have got painting or an ornament that's got an owl in it.
Yeah, we do actually. There is an owl. It sits on the corner of our front room by the chair that moved.
Well, again, like I said, they're not those screen memories.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the reason Daryl didn't want to hypnotise me, because he said if they're there and they're working, don't disturb them, really, if you're happy to be as you are. Which is, I tended to agree with him on that, and that's where we left it for the time.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Don't poke the bears, what they say.
Well, exactly, yeah. If you need help, by all means, but yeah. Yeah.
They were saying about mapping the lines.
Yeah.
Well, I always see UFOs outside my house,
Right.
but I'm in between Kilday Hill and what's that mountain? That Birch Grove.
Drummer.
Drummer Hill. And there's been lots of sightings on there. So is it I'm in the middle?
You could be in the middle. Yeah, there's nothing to say that the line finishes the way you saw it. I mean, it's like our line. We're happy to go on east and west of where we got to see what there is.
And
if
speaking
anything.
about owls, you just pointed out I've got an owl in my garden.
Yeah.
It's not that right. I didn't buy it with that in
Oh,
mind.
big one.
What? How big is it?
It's that big.
It's not an owl.
It's an ornament.
I think you need an ornament. Yeah, yeah. I was going to say if you got a real one that big, I'd be worried. Yeah. No, you're probably somewhere on that line. What you need is another sightings a little way away, and that might give you a good line there.
Well, there were people on Facebook that had put their sightings, and they were the same thing I saw, but they had seen it from a different angle.
That could be just one that several have seen, but it's somewhere that doesn't say their line runs with you. It could go off at an angle that way or that way. They've just seen that one spot, which is where you'll cross.
Because the mountains themselves are conductors, because they've got minerals and stuff.
It's quite possible. Yeah.
So the line you're talking about now, have you checked to see if there is an actual ley line on
No, there isn't.
There isn't one.
It touches it in one place, but then it goes off away from it. So, yeah, I did think of that, but no. Which would have answered a few questions, but no.
Are you aware of Captain Bruce Catley, I think it is, the New Zealand airline pilot who plotted the grids around the world? That he really felt strongly that UFOs follow those grids.
Oh yeah, for the flight paths of them, yeah.
I just wondered how that fits in any way.
Yeah, you could do, yeah, certainly. I must admit I haven't looked that closely into it with mine, but yeah, he did some good work on that. Yeah.
Sounds like a timeline, doesn't it? Dimension.
What are the significance of the owls? Because that hits me actually.
Oh right, the owls are used as screensavers when you've been abducted. It blocks the memory from remembering what happened. Can be owls, can be deer, occasionally other things, but very often it can be those two. Okay.
Have you had any other types of paranormal experience? Because I know lots of people think that there's a link with people who have psychic powers also see UFOs, and this theory, and it's kind of the same thing.
I have seen two ghosts on old estates that I've worked on. People in old dress, children mainly, crossing lawns and things of families that have long gone from the site. There was one actually in old 18th century clothing walking across the front lawn of a large manor I worked in North Hampshire. Everybody said, oh, that's so-and-so, that was the old family that used to live here. And they just accepted it. Yeah. But, yeah, I'm quite happy to accept ghosts. Don't have a problem with ghosts. And they haven't had a problem with me so far. Yeah, thank you.
The grey alien that you saw looking around the door,
Yeah,
it was pretty tall, wasn't it? It was right up at the
about 7 foot.
7 foot.
7 foot, yeah. Yeah, the watchers very often are, literally, haven't
You
you?
don't know if it was standing on the floor though, do you? Might have been
No, he
floated.
No, I mean the other side of where he was actually where Kay was asleep. He could have had his feet on the top of the headboard and been leaning through.
Is he coming
But
back?
there was, when I went back into the room, there was nothing on our side, you know. So I think that might have triggered something if there was.
He might have brought a step ladder with him.
No, I mean, I didn't check he was missing out the shed.
So this thing about, I'm not familiar with the watchers, they called it.
Watcher, yeah.
Daryl Sims said about
He's got it, yeah, I mean, if you get hold of some of his material, he's got a list of the various aliens and what they do or not do. But yeah, this thing with the hood is or watcher, who's just there to sort of watch you and keep an eye on you. The answer question is then why?
Sorry, did it have a hood?
Yeah,
The one
brown
you saw
hood,
had a hood?
from about there. And I think it just went down, disappeared into the wall, so I don't know whether it went on down or not. Yeah.
It's a bit like sounds a bit like a shadow person.
Well, a little more alien than shadow, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Very quite tall as well.
Yeah, you can get tall shadow people, can't you? Yeah.
Phil, I was thinking, did your cat react?
Cat, sorry. Yeah.
Do you know your cat?
Yeah.
Did he react at all?
He didn't at that one, but he still does in our front room now. He'll just stop and stare into a corner up into the top corner of the rooms. And also he stares into our bathroom for some strange reason. There are chills in our property. Kay's, we've had an armchair move in the front room, drop back onto the bookcase and then drop back onto the floor. For no apparent reason. We just asked them to put it back when they finished. There's not a lot else you can do, is there really? There don't seem to be a problem, but yeah, the cat definitely reacts to things that we can't see. And we've also got what looks like a shadow cat, and that comes in and out of the front room. As you see it go past you, and you think it's yours, but yours isn't there. Yours is that side up on top of the settee asleep.
Have you ever had situations where things go missing in your house and then they reappear?
Don't go there, no. Okay. Yeah, quite often things go missing. You search drawers where you think they are, turn them out, nothing.
Electric iron.
Yeah, we've lost the electric iron at the moment. I don't know where that's gone. But yeah, little things that you knew you put in that drawer have gone. And then they turn up, maybe a week later. It makes you think you've got the borrowers in the house. But yeah, that's always strange.
Sorry, not to go back onto the lines.
Yeah.
The only reason I know about this place is my mother witnessed a UFO by Morriston Cross.
Right.
So I started looking into it. I found an article by a woman saying that there's an actual hotspot between the Swansea M4 corridor to Cardiff. Now we were just discussing every time we've seen one. One was Clitter, one was Bridgend, which would be on the same one.
Yeah.
And we had a previous meeting here where a couple, and they said that a craft had landed directly by where that M4 corridor. Does anyone remember? I'm going back a few years. Elderly couple. Bridgend, shot across the sky, but he wasn't satellite.
Yeah, I know which one you mean. Yeah.
Do you remember?
In,
I was just wondering, because I've read before about the lines.
1966.
Yes, and she said a disco lights. When the 80s came about, she realised.
Yeah.
That was the
Alice
elderly couple. And she was going to bring him, old school from a phone box and...
Yeah.
But it's just that by the M4 corridor, and an article I read said there's a line between...
You've seen and everything, you've seen this probably in
I think I've been on that. Other people have as well. It just struck me that we've had a meeting here and they said they witnessed a craft. Does anyone else
Yeah, I
remember?
get it. No, I don't.
You did? I do remember.
Actually, to follow on from that, that's really interesting because I'm from Caerphilly and
Yeah.
Caerphilly Mountain, and the amount of UFOs I've seen which could not have been aeroplanes. And other people have seen them. I've seen stars, look at stars come together. But there's been a lot of, there was a UFO landed in 1910, I think.
Yeah, 1909.
1909, that's it.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
well done. I can't believe anyone else knows this. And they asked, where are we and what time is this? And it's well documented. And I've never seen UFOs. I've seen UFOs in Brecon, but living in Philly, I've seen absolutely loads of them, but not much ever since. So I'm going to have a look at my lines, actually.
Yeah, no, worth
So that's
doing.
interesting.
It's funny actually that back then they actually got out and asked where they were. Because I've been sort of working on a theory. They say that some of these drop in from another reality around us and they just come in to see us and then disappear again, which is why they can suddenly appear and suddenly disappear. But I'm thinking maybe they're not dropping into our reality, we're dropping into theirs. Because we have a planet that is surrounded by millions of internet users, electrical signals in the air permanently around our planet. And is that upsetting it a bit? Are we beginning to nudge into some of these, especially with the numbers that are now being seen? So, just an idea, but yeah.
It's the dimensions, it is. It's the thinning of dimensions.
Yeah. Is all the electrical stuff, are we thinning it out? Interesting though, it was back in 1909. Yeah.
Yeah, they was doing the airship wave, the phantom airship.
Oh right, yeah.
There's one that landed on the air, on top of the mountain. Yeah, it was at night as well, and it took off again. Which airships then, you couldn't manoeuvre them that well.
Yeah, so very.
It obviously wasn't an airship.
Yeah, he landed. McDonald's wasn't there then, so left again. Yeah, no, interesting actually. There's that
Quite
far
a
back.
few sightings of airships around that time as well. But they make a hell of a noise, and they don't go that far.
Oh, the engines on those, yeah. Yeah.
The old Zeppelins, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, there's quite a few sightings around there. But a lot of them were flying at night, and they couldn't fly at night. They had no lights, it was so dark.
We couldn't navigate and it was,
No, not back
it
then.
It wasn't
No.
safe.
Especially that little Caffrey Mountain in the dark.
No, not ideal.
Can you remind me what year your triangle sighting was?
I certainly can, yeah. Hold on. Blah, blah, blah. I wrote them all down in a separate list because I knew someone would ask.
That's quite early, isn't it?
77, I think.
Was
I
it?
think it was 77,
That's
yeah.
quite early, isn't it?
70.
That's before the Belgian.
78, 14th of October,
Oh yeah, 78.
78.
Yeah.
The light over St Ives Bay was 77.
That's before the Belgian wave of triangles and before ours, wasn't it? That's very early for triangle sighting.
Yeah. I mean, there was no lights on it, there was nothing visible on it at all, just pitch black.
Must have been an early model.
Yeah, they hadn't fitted them yet. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So there's a big gap in missing that you hadn't seen anything.
Yeah.
So is that because you'd moved out?
Yeah, we didn't always live on that line.
Oh, that's what
So because I was working or living off that line, yeah, nothing.
So how many years was that missing then?
Oh, we got some of them here where I'm in 78 to 94. Yeah, because we were living we moved up to Andover for a while. And Andover, the one we saw there, the green tadpole, was actually, Kay saw that one. I only saw the end of it when I was called out the house to look, and that wasn't on my line. That was actually about 15, 20 miles north of that. So that was the start of a K line, really. You've got your own line now.
Yeah, you said on that one, a slit opened and this taboo
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah, you said that the cloud just opened, almost like a white.
It's like a streak of lightning.
Hmm.
It was a crack.
A crack.
Yeah, and it just shot down. We thought meteorite burning up, you know, there's a similar colour, the old green.
But then you went up again.
No, it just curved and went straight up over the town and disappeared back into the
Meteors
cloud.
do that.
Yeah. They don't normally do that, do they? Anyone else?
Is that it?
Oh, well done. Well, thank you very much.
I've got one. Do you think that you've been abducted? Sure, everybody wants to know in the room.
I may well be, but I sit fairly settled with it. And
I think so, from what
I
you
think,
say.
yeah, I mean, I always thought so, and Daryl thought the same. But he said if you sit fairly comfortably with it, don't go poking about. So,
I can see why he wants, but he wants the information and the data as well.
Mm.
To be on it, really.
yeah. Yeah, so I may well have been.
So do you brothers? Were you brothers adopted to that?
They were
family as
adopted, they
well?
came from other sites. Yeah, my middle brother's now in New Zealand, in Dunedin, with his family. My younger brother died about 5 years ago.
So do you think that, I mean, it is a possibility, it's up for debate, isn't it? Do you think
Maybe,
you were actually abducted and then given to another family because you could hear from your mother?
Yeah, he found his mother, and he met them, the whole family, for just one-off big meeting, and then they said they didn't want to know him after that, which was a bit of a shame. But yeah, and my younger brother never wanted to know. He was quite happy with things as they were. But they said, other than that one we saw at near Ringwood for the barrel, I'm not aware that they've seen anything else since then. Or he's never said anything.
Oh, you can't remember?
No more questions? Any more questions?
I'm just going to say, you probably know yourself, but Gwydion is a bit of a hotspot for sightings.
Yeah, yeah.
Quite a few over there over the years. Hale, Gwydion, it's all the same place.
It's all in that area, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, you gone down towards the Lizard with all the standing stones areas and stuff. Yeah, well, say we used to live down in outside Truro, in Zela for a few years. So.
I lived in Helston for a while, and I lived in Falmouth for a couple of years.
Oh, right, yeah.
I lived down there for about 5 years, so I know the place quite
It's not
well.
too crowded now.
I wanted to UFOs when I was down there, but I was living on a boat in Greek for a while. I remember listening to the radio, and then somebody phoned it and said they'd seen a strange light in the sky on the Hereford Passage. But again, I wanted to UFOs, and I thought, I don't think much of it, but the more I heard down there, the more it's a lot of sightings.
Yeah.
It's a lot more rural, I think, as well, because it's a good place to fly, isn't it? There's not so many people to be seen.
No, exactly, yeah. Okay, well, thank you all very much indeed.